The Joshua Tree is the fifth studio album by Irish rock band U2. It was produced by Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno, and was released on March 9, 1987 by Island Records. The album is influenced by American and Irish roots music, and through socio-politically conscious lyrics embellished with spiritual imagery, it contrasts the group's antipathy for real America with their fascination with mythical America. Inspired by American experiences, literature, and politics, U2 chose the United States as the theme for the album. Recording began in January 1986 in Ireland, and to foster a relaxed and creative atmosphere, the group recorded primarily in two houses. Various events during the sessions helped shape the album's conscious tone, including the band's participation in the Conspiracy of Hope benefit concerts for Amnesty International, the death of roadie Greg Carroll, and lead vocalist Bono's travels to Central America. Recording was completed in November 1986. Further production continued through January 1987. Throughout the sessions, U2 sought a cinematic quality to the record, one that evoked a sense of location, in particular the wide-open spaces of the United States. They represented this in the cover photograph portraying them in American desert landscapes. The Joshua Tree received critical acclaim, topped the charts in over 20 countries, and became the biggest-selling album in British history. According to Rolling Stone magazine, the album increased the band's stature from heroes to superstars. It produced the hit singles With or Without You, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and Where the Streets Have No Name, the first two of which became the group's only #1 singles in the U.S. The album won Grammy Awards for Album of the Year and Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals in 1988. The album reached #1 on the Billboard 200 and remained there for 121 weeks. The singles, With or Without You and I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, both reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed at the top for 3 and 2 weeks respectively. The group promoted the album with the Joshua Tree Tour throughout 1987, during which they began performing in stadiums for the first time in their career. The Joshua Tree, ranked among the greatest albums of all time, is one of the world's best-selling albums, with over 25 million copies sold. U2 commemorated the album's 20th anniversary with a remastered re-release, and its 30th anniversary with concert tours and a reissue. In 2014, the Joshua Tree was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame and was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Recording Registry for being deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress. While in New York, Bono spent time with Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, who introduced him to blues and country music. Bono was unfamiliar with these genres as his main influence was 1970s punk. This inspired him to write the blues-influenced song Silver and Gold, which he recorded with Richards and Ronnie Wood and convinced Van Zandt to add to Sun City. Up to this point, U2 had been apathetic towards roots music, but after spending time with the Waterboys and Irish band Hothouse Flowers, they felt an attraction to indigenous Irish music blending with American folk music. Nascent friendships with Bob Dylan, Van Morrison, and Richards encouraged Bono to look back to the roots of rock and focus on developing his skills as a composer and lyricist. Building on their success with producers Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois on The Unforgettable Fire, U2 wanted the duo to produce their new album. Mullen was enthusiastic about working with them again as he felt the pair, Lanois in particular, were the band's first producers to really take an interest in the rhythm section. Mark "Flood" Ellis was selected to be the recording engineer for the sessions, marking the first time he had worked with U2. During the recording of the Joshua Tree, the band took 2 breaks to participate in charity concerts. On May 17, 1986, U2 performed at Self Aid in Dublin. In June 1986, U2 embarked on the 6-show Conspiracy of Hope tour for Amnesty International, halting the album's recording sessions for about 2 months. On July 3, tragedy struck the band when Greg Carroll, their roadie and Bono's personal assistant, was killed in a motorcycle accident in Dublin. The band traveled to his native New Zealand to attend his traditional Maori funeral. The experience inspired the lyrics of One Tree Hill. On August 1, 1986, U2 regrouped in Dublin to resume work on the album and begin the recording stage proper. Recording of the Joshua Tree was completed in November 1986. Parts of the album were recorded and mixed at Windmill Lane Studios. Eno and Flood had minimal input into the final mixes. Facing a lack of personnel, in late December U2 hired Steve Lillywhite, producer of their first 3 albums, to remix the prospective singles to make them more appealing to commercial radio. Of the approximately 30 songs that were created during the album sessions, 11 were selected for the final track listing. The night before the January 15, 1987 deadline set by Island Records to complete the record, the band and crew finished mixing. While working in Mel Beach, Lily White's wife, singer Kirsty MacColl, volunteered to set the album's running order. After completing the Joshua Tree, Bono said he was as pleased with the record as I could ever be with a record, calling the Joshua Tree his most complete album since his debut. The album cover photograph was taken at Zabriskie Point. Designed by Steve Averill, the album cover was based on U2's request to depict the record's imagination and cinematic location in the desert. Since the album's working titles were The Desert Songs and The Two Americas, the initial concept for the cover was to depict the place where the desert meets civilization. The group decided early in the creative process to photograph in the U.S., in contrast to all of their previous albums which had been filmed in Ireland. Their photographer Anton Corbijn searched for locations in the United States that would capture their ideas. For several days in December 1986, U2 traveled with Corbijn and Averill on a bus through the Mojave Desert for a photo shoot. The Joshua Tree, Yucca brevifolia, used throughout the album's artwork was found in the Mojave Desert near Darwin, California. In the afternoon after the first day of shooting, Corbijn told the band about Joshua trees, Yucca brevifolia, tough, twisted plants in the deserts of the American Southwest, and suggested their use on the cover. Bono was delighted to discover the religious significance of the plant's etymology. According to Mormon legend, early settlers named the plant after the Old Testament prophet Joshua, as the tree's outstretched branches reminded them of Joshua raising his hands in prayer. The next day, Bono declared that the album should be titled The Joshua Tree. The Joshua Tree takes its title from the tree that somehow survives in the desert, and much of its material suggests an attempt, within the aridity, to quench a deeply spiritual thirst. The Joshua Tree was released on March 9, 1987, with initial shipments of 300,000 copies in the United States. It was the first new release to be made available on compact disc, vinyl record, and cassette tape formats on the same date. With or Without You was released as the first single on March 21, 1987. The single quickly topped the Billboard Hot 100, becoming the band's first #1 hit in the United States. I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For was chosen as the second single, and was released in May 1987. Like its predecessor, it topped the Hot 100, giving you 2 consecutive #1 singles in the United States. Where the Streets Have No Name was released in August 1987 as the third single. The single reached number 13 in the United States. Following the album's release, U2 embarked on a worldwide concert tour, the Joshua Tree Tour. It lasted from April to December 1987, comprising 109 shows over 3 legs. The first and third legs visited the United States, while the second leg toured Europe. The Joshua Tree Tour elevated the group to a new level of popularity. The tour sold out arenas and stadiums around the world, the first time they had consistently performed in venues of that size.
Running to stand still. Hey, leave me holding on in Red Hill Town. Arms like a drug in God's country. I just threw your
Bono, lead vocals, harmonica, guitars. The Edge, guitars, backing vocals, piano. Adam Clayton, bass. Larry Mullen Jr., drums, percussion. Daniel Lanois, tambourine, omnichord, additional rhythm guitar. I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, Running to Stand Still, backing vocals. Brian Eno, production. Keyboards, DX7 programming, backing vocals. The Armin Family, Strings, One Tree Hill. The Arklow Silver Band, Woodwinds, Red Hill Mining Town. Paul Barrett, Arrangements and Conducting of Woodwinds. Dave Meagan and Pat McCarthy, Additional Engineering. Steve Lillywhite, Mixing, Where the Streets Have No Name, With or Without You, Bullet the Blue Sky, Red Hill Mining Town. Mark Wallace, Mix Engineering. Mary Kettle, Assistant Mix Engineer. Bob Deutsch, String Recording. Kirsty McCole, Album Track Sequencing.
Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please comment, like, share and subscribe. See you next time.